so excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Yeah, so Gager, at this point I realized I don't even have my fishing rod with me at all. So I thought, okay, I can probably wade into the river and catch this thing with my bare hands, right? So oh, we're on. Sorry. I'll finish that story later. Finish that story later. Yeah, Reid Wilkins in for Dustin Nielson today on Two Guys and a Goalie. The goalie is Joaquin Gage. Matt Kassian is the other guy. Yeah, no Dusty today, guys. You're stuck with me.
Yeah. Maybe Dusty had some bad fish. Is that what it was? Probably not.
Yeah, I got it.
It wasn't fish. He had some bad fried chicken or something.
A bad chicken tender.
Some bad pretzels. Bad chicken nugget. Yeah.
Oh, poor guy. Get well soon, Dusty.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. Yeah, he texted me at about 8 this morning. So he was 2/3 of the way through his own show. Yeah. Well, I know he has several shows, I guess, but he was 2/3 of the way through the Nielsen show before he realized he was not going to be able to complete the day. So I'm always happy to jump on with you guys. First of all, Cass, you weren't on our airwaves yesterday. What did you? Well, I mean, I think we kind of know the answer, but just give me your Super Bowl thoughts on a game that, like, unless you cheer for the Philadelphia Eagles, was perhaps not overly entertaining.
No, it was pretty boring. That was a disappointing thing to me. Is like, I kind of wanted Philly to win, but there was a part of me that's like, well, the three-peat would be kind of cool too. And then I ultimately, heading into it, I settled on, I just want this to be a fun game to watch. Like, I want it to be close. I want it to be exciting. I want it to be back and forth, like, momentum swings and lead changes and, kind of the tit for tat with Hurts and Mahomes. And it just wasn't, which we all know. So it was, disappointing in that it just wasn't as fun as I was hoping it would be going into it. But on the positive side, my wife says, that the halftime show was really controversial. Not that I understood anything, but apparently there's, lawsuits and this and that. But Serena dated Drake. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And she's like, it's a big deal. And then she's like, and then Kendrick Lamar, looking at the camera and saying, and I wasn't even watching at this point because I'm just not a halftime show type of guy. She's like, and he was like staring at the camera and saying something to Drake, and then Drake is suing, and there's this big beef, and I'm just like, why do we care? I don't know, but apparently a lot of people care. So apparently the halftime show, if you're into, I don't know, pop culture news, was really fascinating, but the game was boring, which is too bad. Some of the commercials were okay. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
You had to be like watching the halftime show. You had to have Dan Brown, the author, describe all the symbolism of what Drake was actually doing. And I didn't know, like, bell bottom jeans. I just thought, I didn't know those meant so much to so many people.
The old flare jeans.
It was dissing. So Dan Brown, I know you're listening. Let's if we can get you to describe what happened and the things during that halftime show, because I mean, Cass, you're a little ways away from it, but I had a car full of teenage girls watching that and screaming and yelling because they're so into all that stuff. But
they're not. My girls aren't quite there. They were just disappointed that there's no Taylor Swift. They're like at halftime. They're like, because my wife was like, well, maybe she's there. Maybe she does a song with Lamar. She's gonna, maybe do it and get on the halftime show. And so my girls were all, that's like the only reason they wanted the TV still on and not watching like one of their shows was like, oh, maybe Taylor Swift will show up. So I'm a little ways away from it. Yeah, the bell-bottom jeans, that was something.
I love bell-bottom jeans. I think they're great.
Yeah. But I mean, guys,
they've come back.
No, I never.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd wear boot cut, not like the full bell bottom. Like, back in the day, you had a boot cut where it was just like a little bit of it, but not quite as dramatic. So I had those, but guys, I mean, ultimately, and so I don't know if you want to dig into this, but what it all comes down to is the Illuminati.
And, it really does. It really does. Yeah. I did not expect a Dan Brown. It took me a second.
Oh,
it took me about a second or two, and then I was like, oh, should I, in case people, it's the Da Vinci Code author.
The Da Vinci
Which
Code.
is the only one of his book I ever read. Because then
did you?
Didn't he do Angels and Demons? Was that the sequel?
Angels and Demons was
it was the follow-up.
It was the first one.
It was the pre.
When you watch when you read the books,
Yeah.
Angel and Demons actually comes first before
But which one did he write first?
Angels and Demons.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought he wrote Da Vinci Code first.
No, and he wrote a few more
I thought
before
it
that
was
too.
first.
I read a couple more. What's the zero something? They're all really cool.
What was the
'cause he
one?
takes-
There was one that was a really good one. I'm trying to remember the name of it. There was I think it was with AI and stuff. Let me just check. I want to check what this is because I think it was my favorite one by him.
I
Digital
have-
Fortress.
That's the one I read. Yeah,
Oh,
Digital
wow.
Fortress.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
That's a really good one.
Well
And I don't
written.
think Robert Langdon's the main character in that one. Correct?
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's a different.
No, it's a
person.
separate one. That one was really, really good.
Yeah, that was good. And there was one more that I read too. I mean, they're great books. I remember when the Da Vinci Code came out. Like it was massive. And it was a time when the internet wasn't so prevalent. And like guys, I was playing hockey in Europe.
Yeah, it was mid or early 90s,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
No, it was probably 2002.
Really? I thought it was older than that.
I don't think so.
The Da Vinci Code novel.
Yeah.
What did I do before?
Deception Point was the other one.
Oh, it was
Deception
I read too.
2003.
It was
Wow,
really
I thought
good.
it was
Yeah.
older than that. Okay.
I was close, 2002. Yeah. So, and then I think there's the new ones are Inferno. I haven't read Inferno yet. I think they made that into.
I haven't either.
Wow,
But,
fascinating stuff. Well, Dan Brown, you're getting plugged today on Two Guys and a Goalie. All presented by GS Construction, setting the industry standard for 50 years with quality, efficiency, and safety, driving their success. GS Construction has a foundation built on teamwork, and now they want you to become part of the team. Visit gsconstruction.ca, click Ready to Work, or visit their page at indeed.ca. With the Next Person Up program at GS Construction, it's not just a job. It's a career. Of course, we're happy to hear from you today. You can text 780-218-9999. If you're watching on YouTube, you can jump into the Nasty Chat, speak with us, and more importantly, just with each other. A lot of times the audience members, the Nasties, just get on their own conversations there. You can email Reid at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Four Nations face-off does start tomorrow with Canada against Sweden. We will dive into that. We'll look at some Oilers storylines related to that, and maybe some storylines for players who aren't playing. Oddly enough, but Cass wants to do some predictions for the tournament.
I like it.
So I told Gager
Not just predictions, bold predictions.
Bold. Okay, good. Well, mine are sort of bold. Speaking about the Super Bowl, I want to ask you guys this and tie it into hockey. Now, I know the Super Bowl is the championship game, so this doesn't have to be a playoff game for you guys, but those games, and I know that pro athletes and NHL players are extremely confident and, have belief, and at some point in their careers came back from 4-0 down or whatever. But like those nights, like you saw the Chiefs, they looked as great as they are and as experienced as they are, like they looked rattled, they looked despondent. Like those nights, like you guys must have had those nights. It's like, oh my God, there's only 5 minutes gone in the second period. We have 35 more. Like, I know you probably are always hoping to win, but you must have had those nights where it's like, this game is out of control. Like, I don't know how we get back into this one.
Oh, yeah.
Those were good nights for me, guys. Those are good nights for me because I was like, I guess I'm going to play. Yeah, a few more shifts for this guy. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I was jumping up and down because I was probably going in. soon, right? Looking at the coach like a little puppy waiting for a treat. It's but no, at times I think, especially in that game, I hate blowouts like you mentioned, Cass. I want to see the lead changes, the drama of a football game, and especially in the championships like that. But don't you think that just because it was Patrick Mahomes kind of kept you a little bit more engaged to see if he could have that Tom Brady-esque comeback in the second quarter? And that's the only thing that kept my attention. Because if this was, I would say, any other teams, anyone else, well, even aside from the Chiefs, I probably would have I did kind of turn it off in the third, but because it was all said and done. But that's the only thing that grabbed my attention is the pursuit of greatness. I would say
I get that, and it held my attention. So I was with former Edmonton Elks coach Kavis Reid at the point just after halftime, and we were talking, and he said, and I agreed. He's like, they have to score. He's like, all they need is 3. He said on that first drive, first possession after the half, he's like, if they get 3, they got a chance. Because you can get the momentum, you finally get some offense, get things rolling a little bit. And then they just sputtered. And then we both kind of looked at each other, and I'm like, they're done. I'm like, there's no way now. They are not coming back. And they didn't. And so that kind of, again, the interest at that point for me, it's like I still had it on because I wanted to see what happens, and I still like watching. But yeah, and there are hockey games like that too. And funny enough, I mean, from an Edmonton Oilers standpoint, I mean, we've seen them be down in similar type situations, right? And fairly recently, like some of the play in the first period where it's like they're down 3 goals. And when you have players that have that X factor, as it were, like a Mahomes or a McDavid or Draisaitl in the Oilers case, you kind of feel like they always have the chance to come back until, they just start running out of time. And when they run out of time, obviously you can't, but there can just be something compelling about players that are at that caliber in big games, because you're like, they are always capable of doing something special and otherworldly and that no one else can do. And unfortunately, for that game, it just didn't manifest, didn't happen.
Yeah. All right. Let's shift focus here to the Four Nations face-off. Depending on who you are, it is an exciting confrontation between some of the biggest names in hockey, not Leon Draisaitl, or it is, if you're like my dad, it is stupid and he doesn't get it.
Really?
And keep going with the NHL.
Is Jay a long lost brother then? Is that?
Yeah, well, Jay is not enamored by the Four Nations face-off and the whole process of selecting the roster and putting players on in the summer, and
I love it.
And some of the players that have been picked since then, and the omission of some nations and players as well. But here's what we have for Canada. Just going over the line, they did practice again today. The lines remain the same, except Konechny was on the ice after being sick yesterday. McDavid centering Reinhart and Marner. Crosby between Stone and McKinnon, Point between Jarvis and Marchand, Cirelli with Hagel, Bennett, and Konechny, so 4-man rotation there. Taves with Makar, Theodore with Doughty, Morrissey, Parayko, and Sanheim, the bottom pairing, so probably Sanheim will be the 7, I would guess, for the first game. And based on practice today, just seeing some of the reporting on social media, Jordan Binnington has 1 net to himself, and Hill and Montembeault are sharing the other net, leading us to believe, I think, what we all suspected. I don't know if Cooper's spoken yet. I'll keep an eye on it. Not a shock to me that Binnington would get the net for Game 1, Gager, based on his age and experience.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was might have been a toss-up just from where the St. Louis Blues found themselves compared to the Vegas Golden Knights. But I have no problem with it. I think it's a 1A, 1B type of situation. I'm wondering though, with this just kind of a very short tournament here, that if there is a stumble, does Hill just start the next game, and then if he has he just keeps rolling. Like you've handed the ball off to Binnington, but if he fumbles it, the next guy's grabbing it and running. It's not go back to Binnington at some point. So kind of a little bit of pressure there, but that's fine.
Yeah. Cass, I know there was, you love hockey fans, right? Like the lines come out yesterday. No, that's wrong. No, Cooper, dumb. McDavid's on the wrong line. McDavid and McKinnon should be together. What's he doing? You guys know my attitude about line combinations. They can change 40 seconds into the first game, depending on how the first shift goes. But still, it's I guess it's extra fun for Oilers fans to see how their player, their captain, is being used. What did you think when you saw the alignment yesterday?
Go for it, Gager, and I'll jump in after.
Okay, sorry.
No, I was fine with it. I mean, I think for years there was probably discussions with John Cooper too,
right?
Who the hierarchy of the team. I mean, Sidney Crosby is the elder statesman on this. I believe he was approached. Who would you like to play with? I'm sure he would like to play with McDavid at some point, but Nathan McKinnon, they've had the relationship. We've all watched the Tim Hortons commercials, right? I think this is, I'm going to get into the conspiracy theory kind of thing here, where maybe this is the reason they got rid of Rantanen, right? See how this goes, and maybe we see Crosby in an Avalanche jersey at some point before the end of his career. I don't know, but I'm fine with it. I think there's going to be pieces of this chessboard moved around at certain points because you don't know if there's going to be chemistry. Maybe Sidney and McKinnon don't work out. Maybe they can't spark something. Maybe it's Sidney and Mitch Marner that work better, and McKinnon and McDavid are a better fit. It's almost to the point with some of these guys, there's just not enough pucks on the ice for all of them, right? Because these guys like to control the play. They want the puck on their stick. I mean, we watched that last game against the Colorado Avalanche. As soon as they get the puck, and if it's not McKinnon who has it, they're looking to give him the puck to gain entrance to the zone, right? That's his forte. That's what he wants. He's looking to get that. He's putting himself in a good position to grab it. So maybe with this kind of these lineups, as I look at them, although Mitch Marner's a very good, puck transporter, I would say, along with McDavid. Then you have Reinhart, that's more of a trigger guy. Crosby can transport the puck. McKinnon, Mark Stone. So you look at those two lines, and it's quite similar. So you have two puck transporters on both lines with kind of a guy that can score as well with those first two.
Yeah, and I think to me that's what I see is that they're trying to build some balance between the lines, and really the team is so deep. There is only so many minutes. Like you're not immediately going to the McDavid Draisaitl overload here, like with your lines. Like that's not what you're going to do. You're going to spread it out so that every line is incredibly dangerous, and they are. Like each of those lines is incredibly dangerous in their own right, and you're kind of trying to fit those pieces together. And that even when they first built the roster, you're kind of like, okay, they're going to try to have these lines where it's like generally you have a guy that's more of a trigger man, you have a guy that's, the transporter skates the puck up, and the guy that's, we'll call it a little bit of utility. And you see that throughout the lineup. So yeah, I mean, to me, like there's zero reason at this point for people to be like, "Who, John Cooper? How dare he play this guy with this guy? Like, how could you do that? Like, why? Like, why? Now, if they all struggle, and it's like, let's say they're just bad against Sweden and they don't change the lines, then you're like, okay, you have so many more different combinations you could try, then for sure criticize it. But to head into the first game to say, hey, this is what they think is going to work in a short tournament where you don't have a lot of run-up practice time, guys, don't complain about this. Like, just be excited to see the quality of players where every time someone steps on the ice for Canada, you have an absolute superstar on the ice.
Here's what I'm waiting for, guys. The first time the 3 or 4 consecutive guys have a chance for a grade A shot and they pass. You know how you know how with the Oilers, especially on the power play, or sometimes even that 3-on-1 in overtime when Bouchard and McDavid tried to go back and forth 3 times, and then Seth Jones broke it up. Like how many minutes into the tournament before? I can't overpassing. Just shoot it. Why are they being? Because you have all these offensive players with great vision who don't want to shoot unless it's an open net or near an open net, and they're thinking, I'm going to feed it back door, and then that guy's like, no, I'm going to go back to the front door that's now the back door because the goalie's trying to go this way. And then that goes back to the point man who's side door. And then that goes down low to a guy who's window, and then who's finally going to shoot it. And everybody's just like, just shoot the puck. Don't pass it 20 times.
Well, don't you think that's why you have Stone and Reinhart on those lines?
Yeah,
Cass?
probably, yeah.
At least, like, when it gets on their tape, they're probably, safeties are off compared to I'm not saying that they can't distribute the puck well, too, but those guys are kind of I would call them the trigger men of those lines.
Probably more so. Yeah.
So, but I'm sure you'll hear that in Montreal tomorrow night. There will be the shoot birds out at some point. I guarantee. Yep. I think I set the over under at maybe 4.5. They'll have shoot on there. So I'll go with the over.
Yeah. Well, I do think that Canadian power play probably needs some coaching from the crowd. Like there's,
they're not good enough. Yeah, they are not experienced enough. They've never played in a Four Nations tournament before, so yeah.
Yeah, that's
right.
A good point, Cass.
They've never played in this type. Yeah,
that's a good point. If any team stumbles, well, if no Four Nations experience, they're obviously a little rattled, a little unsure of themselves. Joaquin Gage, Matt Kassian, Reid Wilkins with you on Two Guys and a Goalie today. I'm in for Dustin Nielson, who is expected to work tomorrow. We hope. I'll go on a tangent here before we get back to more tournament stuff. The players who aren't playing, and we've all talked about this, guys. I remember one of the first shows Jay and I did together back in the fall when we were just riffing about this tournament. I said, well, the one thing is Leon Draisaitl isn't going to play, so he won't have to exert himself. He won't get cross-checked. He won't have a puck that could possibly hit him. So. And it was interesting when we got into that discussion, the number of listeners who said, yeah, like no Oilers on the team then. And then the Oilers started poorly, and it looked like, okay, Bush isn't going to be on the team. Stewart's not going to be on the team. Hyman won't be on the team. And then even there were questions about Ekholm and Arvidsson, though I still think Ekholm was a lock for Sweden. I wasn't as sure about Arvidsson. But there was a sort of a point where it was, okay, just McDavid in the tournament, no other Oilers.
Yeah.
So here's my question, though. The guys that aren't playing, so, Leon, Hyman, or whatever, and I know there's varying spouse and or child commitments depending on the person. Are these guys, I don't know, do you still work out every day? Might you try to skate a little bit before the practices resume next week? Will they actually take a day off and do nothing physically? Like, tell me what you think.
Well, I know what I would do, but it's probably not what a lot of these guys would do. But I would say there was a few consecutive days off, where they just, because you rarely get those with the schedule. I know there's mandatory days off, but if you're ever in any sort of work environment and you get one day off, it's almost like you wouldn't even like it because it's just it doesn't seem long enough and you're right back at it, right? So I would try to string a few days of just rest, and everyone's in different areas of their lives too, right? There's significant others. Some guys are married. Some guys have multiple little ones that now they can kind of be part of throughout the whole day. I think there's probably a lot of spouses that are really welcoming this time, that they don't have to get to swimming lessons, to all the appointments and do all these things and have a little bit of a break. But again, everyone's in that different phase. I think after 3 days, there might be guys showing up at the rink and maybe working out a bit. Okay. And then I don't know, as a goalie, I would prefer just to take the whole time off. And I would do other stuff, but just take a break of seeing pucks, and just not even worrying about it, and then just come back completely refreshed and go from there.
Yeah. It's too long to do nothing the entire time, but your body needs to recover. And if you can have 5 or 6 days where you're just resting and not doing anything, for guys with injuries, like that's really important. So to me, it's like for most, you're probably taking 5 or 6 days, not doing anything, and then you're going to start small again. Maybe it's just riding the bike, stretching, doing some Pilates or yoga or something, just body weight, just to get your body moving and kind of building up again leading into it. Highly doubtful that any guys skate until it's mandatory, or they may have non-mandatory skates happen before. I'm not sure the PA rules on that. I'd have to check on if they're allowed to, where it's like, okay, there's optional skates that happen early. It wouldn't surprise me if they do have that, because guys are going to want to get on the ice again, get moving, and not do anything strenuous, but just to feel the puck, feel their edges, get back into a little bit more of a rhythm. But yeah, it's finding a balance, and different players are going to have different needs depending on, if they have any lingering issues, if they have any injuries, if they've been nicked up, if they haven't played as much. Like a guy that hasn't played as much is probably going to be trying to do a little bit more to stay with it than a Leon Draisaitl who, is playing 25 minutes a night and probably isn't going to be hurt by taking an extra 2 or 3 days to not do anything. It's going to really vary a little bit player to player.
Got a lot going on in the nasty chat. Penner's Pancake says, well, if Bouchard is spotted on a beach, it'll be posted everywhere. People will be saying you should be living at the rink for 2 straight weeks. Put a little smiley face. Yeah, just sit there and watch film, Bouch. Yeah. I remember it was for the first or second year I was doing overtime open line, so the Oilers stunk. Like they lost 2/3 of their games, basically. And this guy called in to Rob and I, and he in the day before the game or a couple of days before that night's game, he'd seen Jordan Eberle out for dinner with his family. Mm-hmm. And this guy was irate that Eberle would be out enjoying life and spending time with his family. Like he said, like we thought he was joking at first, and then we're like, we're not thinking he's serious. Like he said Eberle should be either at the rink or in his apartment just sitting and thinking about hockey and being a better player the entire time and never going out.
He was serious?
I think he was.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we got people pretty emotional, or perhaps that it imbibed, or maybe had just a unique view of how humanity works. But yeah, we were like, if he was joking, he was really good and really cool. So maybe Bouchard is just walking around everywhere with an iPad. He's had all his plays cut. Okay, here's maybe it's like a slate comes up, good play, and it shows him making a nice pass, and then bad play, and it shows him, and he's just watching that on a loop over and over again to figure,
Maybe I should do that before the show then. Just sit myself and focus for an hour.
Good comment.
Just stare at the wall. Just think.
Good comment.
Just
bad
think.
Comment.
You know how crazy that I mean, you've probably played with a few guys that are quite intense, Cass, like that they don't want to talk, and they're just like they're so focused and in the game and stuff. I would say I might have tried doing that, but then I just felt, you know what, I'm trying to actively ignore everyone. I'm not even focusing on the game. I'm just making sure I'm not talking to it. It seemed like way too much work than say, hey, how's it going?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Terrible.
Asking me to not talk and not that's a big ask. Way harder mentally to not just be always chittering and yelling and no, I couldn't do it. Yeah. And there are players are wired differently.
Yeah.
There's some guys that can do that, as you said, they just get in that mode. And for me, it's like, well, no, being energetic and lively and loud and always kind of chittering, that was helpful to be engaged versus just sitting there grumpy and not saying anything. I never understood that.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Remember to give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Nasty chat, read a couple messages there. Any text you want to read, Gager? 780-218-9999. Save a couple for later, whatever you want.
Joe H. This is okay. This is from Bones. Bones. Gager, just have a dart with Nanso. You'll be laser focused. Yeah, no.
Jeez.
Nanso has to have at least 5-6 beers, and then the darts come out. So it's a whole process to get to the nicotine. And I look, I've tried to smoke. I thought it was cool. I can't do it. As soon as I inhale, it feels like I'm about to die. So I gave it my best shot.
You don't have the odd cigar?
No, I don't.
You like Scotch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't some people do scotch with a cigar or a cigar with scotch?
Yeah, and it's supposed to enhance the flavor. No, it just makes your mouth taste like an ashtray, which is weird because I do like smoky, peaty scotch, and I'm on a tequila kick now. Reid, I found mezcal tequilas that are smoky.
Oh, nice.
Oh, kind of like peaty. Yeah, they're kind of like scotch. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So my wife and I have resorted to margarita Saturdays, and we just make our own.
Resorted to. Did you catch that, Cass? Well, it appears we have stumbled so far. We must now resort to margarita Saturdays.
And times are tough.
All right. What were we talking about? Hockey tournament.
Yeah.
Okay, we're halfway through the show. We'll do hired or fired after this part. I have some hires or fires. So Cass wanted to do bold predictions. So he said 2 or 3 bold predictions. Now, Cass, I'm going to start to set the tone perhaps, or I just want to get mine out of the way. So my number one bold prediction, because I always think Oilers storylines first, right? And I thought, okay, who's in this tournament that has been having an underwhelming year for the Oilers? Well, of the 3, I think there's an obvious choice. I'm going to say that Victor Arvidsson will score a game-winning goal for Sweden in this tournament. And it'll have Oilers fans both frustrated, thinking, why hasn't he done that for us?
Oh, yeah.
But also we'll have Oilers fans thinking, oh, yeah, that's the spark he needs. Watch Arvy coming back after getting that late game winner against whoever. Now this is the clutch guy we're going to have in the final third of the season and the playoffs. He's going to get propelled forward by a big goal at the Four Nations face-off. So that is my first. I have a couple. That is my first bold prediction. I hope this is what you were thinking of. I hope Cass not sitting there like thinking, "Oh yeah, real bold." Victor Arvidsson scores a game-winning goal for Sweden, like a really dramatic game winner. Yeah.
Nice, that's good. I like that. That's a good one. Yeah, Arvidsson gets a big game winner in a pivotal moment. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and it tears.
That's good. I'll draw.
It'll probably be against Canada.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, and it'll tear.
Yeah, tomorrow.
It'll tear the fan base apart.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Gager, you'll like this one. So this is one of my bold predictions. So I want to hear what you think first, and then read you too. Canada's goalies finish the tournament with the best goals against and best save percentage.
Say
that again. Like Canada's goalies finish the tournament with the best goals against and best save percentage.
That's good. I don't know if you heard me this morning. Dusty asked me about I actually got all over Dusty about his comment about goaltending because when you look at the resumes of every other goaltender, you have to say that Team Canada's 2 goalies, though the guys that they have that are going to probably be on the bench, have a better resume. They both, when it's counted most, they've got Stanley Cups rings on their fingers. And they were both in conversations to be the MVP of the whole Stanley Cup playoffs when they won. So, and I had mentioned that in this type of format, I would definitely pick Canada's goalies out of all the other ones, ahead of all of them, just because it's a one and done type of thing, just like the Super Bowl.
Well, to be the doom and gloom Canadian fan, that could happen and they could still not make the final cast.
Yeah.
But no, that I find the goaltending discussion really interesting. And Gage, I heard you this morning, and I know it's been talked about a lot. I think I'll really go out on a limb here. I think Connor Hellebuyck is the best goaltender in this tournament. That doesn't mean he's going to be the best goaltender in the tournament once it actually starts. I know I saw a discussion, Gager, when you were on this morning, that Hellebuyck's last 2 playoffs haven't been that great. How is he going to play? And again, this is the fun about talking about this tournament. Everybody's like, well, no, it's more like the Stanley Cup playoffs than it is the NHL regular season, so therefore Hellebuyck's going to choke. Like, everybody's looking for these connections to make from a guy's career as to how he's going to play in a 3 or 4 week tournament. And for a goalie, maybe only play 2 games or even just 1. I for sure, I could see that happening, Cass. I just think, I mean, look at these goaltenders. I mean, Saros and like Lankinen to me is a total, not a wild card for Finland, but I mean, he's kind of done a lot to keep the Canucks afloat with his play. I guess this on paper, does Sweden maybe have the most questionable goaltending, but they still got some really, I mean, Allmark's had a great career to this point. But yeah, I think that's an interesting prediction. I wonder, like, I don't know, that's the whole thing you're opening up there, Cass, because what are the shots on goals going to be in these games? Like, will this be games that the shots are 45-42 just because there are so many creative players on every team? Or is it going to be, like I said, not overpassing to the extent I was kind of being kind of cheeky about, but is this going to be shot selection is at a premium? So, there's not a lot of traffic at the net. And then is it going to be, there are so many good defensemen who are good at puck retrieval and getting the puck. Is it going to be a lot of one and dones because a guy, Cale Makar can scoop up a rebound and it's going the other way immediately. So I don't know. Like, that's a really interesting point. And then I'm like, when this is all said and done in 8 days or whatever, what is the leading save percentage going to be? Like, is some good goalie going to go in there and have a 930? Or is it going to be like, no, like everybody's going to be like 892 is going to be the best save percentage because the shooters are so good and they're going to be picking their not shooting unless they know they got a great look. But I think that's a really interesting prediction. And it made me think of a whole bunch of other stuff.
Hey, that's why I picked it, because I'm like, it's a little bit of a hot take, and it does create that interesting speculation where you're trying to figure out how these games are going to be played and how our guys going to play. I kind of go more towards the Eileen, and you brought up some fantastic points and thoughts. I lean more towards you're likely going to see one and dones, like where there is so much skill, they're going to generate first opportunities. It's going to be a lot more difficult to generate second opportunities in a lot of ways, because you just the quality of the defenseman that's there is going to be higher. Now, I think for that Team Canada, you're just so deep up front from an offensive standpoint that you might have a little bit of a better ability to. And I go to Canadians defense and I'm kind of like, okay, I think they're going to limit some of those secondary opportunities that maybe a team like Finland or Sweden isn't able to.
We won't know until we kind of see. You want to hear my bold prediction?
I want to hear all of them.
Let's hear it.
I do not believe that Team USA will win one game.
Oh,
well, I have that right here.
Did you?
I have that right here. Yes, I had USA finishes last. Oh, I worded it different. I said I was going to say USA finishes last.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So my reasoning here is I don't know if I consider them kind of the favorite, or everyone's been talking about how great they are with with who they have, their goaltending, their defense. I think if you were to poll 100 people, hockey people, they'd probably have US at the top. Now, and this is the first time in a long time that in a world, like a best on best tournament, I think that the US has been considered the best team available. And that's a big chip on there. Like, we've seen what happens with teams or players that get talked about of how great they are leading up to something and faltering. Look no further than the Kansas City Chiefs. I just think that these guys have been hearing how great they are. Then there'll be a little bit of, let's throw our sticks out there, and that should be good enough. And I think they're going to get eaten up in this tournament.
Wow. So not just, okay, so you're actually saying they do not win a game.
They don't win a game because they're going to lose because Canada has a chip on their shoulder, not being considered the favorite. Once it shifts to the US, this is going to put a whole bunch more pressure on the US team to win, and I just think they're done.
Wow. So you're actually saying no wins.
No wins.
Now, this is the 3-2-1 point system, so they could get a point for losing in overtime or shootout.
Yeah.
And Cass is just saying last, so maybe they get a win or an overtime win and get 2 or 3 points. And I made this prediction months ago, so I'm going to stick with it because, as you guys know, I just make a prediction and stick with it. I actually picked USA to win the tournament, so it's good. That's not my bold prediction, but that's just the other end. But again, this is such a short tournament.
Yeah.
But I just wonder. I love how you put that, Gager, about Canada having a chip on their shoulder. I'm also wondering if this is going to be a bit of a disjointed performance by Canada at times because it's McDavid first time for Canada, first time, and a lot of these guys, I know they know Crosby and might work out with him in the summer, but just kind of the generation after Crosby, this is their first time on the quote unquote men's national team, right? Like Makar, McKinnon, some of these guys. I actually, this is my theory, and we'll see if I'm ultimately proven right next February. I think this will be a difficult and perhaps underwhelming performance by Canada, which will then serve them well as they win gold in the Olympics.
Okay.
That's the Wilkins theory.
That's a good bold position, though. That's a good bold prediction, is that they underperform here and they then, ramp it up for the Olympics. I like that. That's good. Yeah, I'll give my justification on the U.S. finishing, I think, from a, and I understand some of the guys in the U.S. played together more, the national programs, the way that they structure that, there's some more familiarity there. But I just go to from a Canada standpoint, at least, the X factor of having Makar, of having McDavid, of having McKinnon, where you have some fantastic, amazing players on Team USA, like Austin Matthews, but I'm just like, okay, when I look at that lineup and how it's constructed, I just go like, is this a group that, and I guess you could technically say the same thing about Canada, but I think personality-wise, there's just something different about pulling on that Canadian jersey than for the U.S., where, I think we'll struggle with who is going to be the guy. Like, who is going to be the guy? Where I think, McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, they're all willing to be the guy, and they're all willing to let someone else be the guy, just to try to win. Where I just don't see that happening in the States. So maybe a little. Again, it's a bold prediction, and it's a bold prediction for a reason, and that it's going to be difficult to see come to fruition. But I just see there being not enough flex personality wise in that U.S. roster. And we all know JT Miller is just going to ruin everything and get in fights with everybody.
He's already arguing with Austin Matthews right now in the dressing room. Right?
Yeah, he's getting traded to Finland. Yeah.
Miller's thrown off the team. That should be a bold prediction. What was the one Olympics where they didn't do very well, that like they threw a chair out a window? Wasn't it like...
wasn't it a party or something?
Yeah, and they broke some chairs or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I forget what that was.
Was it 98? Or 02? No, 02 they were in the final. Might have been the 98, the first one with the pros.
Yeah,
because I think Brett Hull was still on the team. And he came out and said, "Oh no, we just sat on a chair and it broke." And those people were like, "No, you guys were like smashing." Anyway, all right. I'll circle back to another bold prediction. This I don't know if this one is bold, but it's an overly specific prediction, which sometimes we do on my show as well. I will say. This is going to sound weak now, I think. Kyle Connor will lead the tournament in goals. I'll go that specific. I think that's going to be a good line if they keep the lines together. Connor with Eichel and Matthew Tkachuk. I will say that Kyle Connor will lead the tournament in goals. I mean, great player, great shooter. Going to have great line mates. And again, I have the USA going all the way, so I'm going to pick Kyle Connor to lead the tournament in goals. Maybe not bold, but overly specific. Unnecessarily specific.
No, that's good. That is bold. It's bold because of how specific it is, right? Like, because there's a lot of other really good players in the tournament. So, no, I like it.
With 6
certainly
goals,
possibility.
I'll give the amount. He scores 6 goals in 4 games.
6 goals.
Connor, all over
there
the
you go.
You've heard it here. Yeah. Reid Wilkins says Kyle Connor is a better goal scorer than Austin Matthews. So that's.
Oh yeah, darn right. I'm saying that.
Yeah, it's up for debate. Actually, that guy can score.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like, I didn't know how how the awards at the end of the tournament go, or what have you, or if there is like an all-star team or best player. But I'm going to say the MVP of the tournament is going to go to one Sasha Barkov.
Oh, that's a good one.
You're going to finally.
That's a good one.
Everyone's going to, and not that they didn't last year or last 2 years with the marches to the finals, but he is going to cement himself as he should be, one of the top 5 players, and he'll be the best player at this tournament.
That is a bold, and that might be more specific than mine even.
That is pretty specific.
Yeah, that is specific. I got one more bold one, last one that I have. And funny enough, it's like it's the antithesis, or maybe I don't know what a proper term would be to Reid's, was that Austin Matthews has no more than 1 goal.
Matthews, 0 or 1 goals. I'm going to write these down and hopefully remember to save them. Don't let me recycle this paper.
This would be good to look back on after this.
Yeah, this will be fun when it's like Sweden and Finland in the final. It's like
Canada finishes last. Sweden, Finland in the final.
Kakko has like 18 points.
Gosh,
something like that. Some random guy. This is a fun discussion though, because I printed up these rosters because I always got to remind myself. But just how we were talking about, okay, will there be sustained offensive pressure? Will there be one and dones? And it's obviously when there's a tournament like this, you look to the offense. Okay, McDavid's on this line, Matthews is on this line, Barkov's on this. But I'm just going to read you, without even doing the pairings, I'm just going to read you the defensemen on the Swedish team: Rasmus Andersson, Jonas Brodin, Rasmus Dahlin, Mattias Ekholm, Gustav Forsling, we learned how awesome he is, Victor Hedman, and Erik Karlsson. Like, who's the guy you get after? Like, if Erik Karlsson might be the weak link on your defense, look at all these offensive players, and I'm like, yeah, but look at all these defensemen who, yes, most of them have offensive ability, but know how to read plays and play angles and cover the front of the net, and again, start a breakout. Yeah. It's not like Troy Stetcher getting a rebound and he fumbles the puck and slaps it into the corner and the cycle continues. It's, a skilled guy getting a rebound, shielding the puck, faking one way, going the other way, and that's what I want. Like, are there going to be 6-5 games, or is this going to be like a 3-2 tense tournament that it's hard to break through? That's the fun part of the anticipation for me.
Personally, I hope it's the 3-2 game where it's there's so much offensive talent on each team. They're going to generate chances without there'll be mistakes, but they're going to create glorious scoring chances just on their own, right? But then I think, like you said, it's going to probably be one and done because of the strength of the defensemen that we're going to see and their abilities. So, but I hope it's like a 3-2 game because that means that every chance, like every moment in the offensive zone is going to give you anxiety. If they shoot, there's a good chance it's going in, right? So you have that playoff feeling of games 5, 6, and 7 where the first period almost feels like overtime. That's what I hope that this is, right? Where teams could actually get a goal and lock things down where it'll be very difficult to score. I hope I know there's people that probably want to see lots of goals and exciting, but I think that anxiety of a low scoring game with this high of talent is much more enjoyable to watch than just a free for all of the last goal wins.
People are mad at me in the nasty chat. I didn't mean to pick on Troy Stetcher. There was the one play against Minnesota. He blindly hacked the puck.
So sensitive.
Pick guys. Okay. Somebody write in bad defenseman on another team, and I'll sub him in. Kevin Ball on the Flames. Is everybody happy now?
Evan Bouchard. If you said Evan Bouchard, they'd be
right.
Right.
Okay, last 10 minutes here. Joaquin Gage, Matt Kassian connecting in remotely. Reid Wilkins in studio for Dustin Nielson today on Two Guys and a Goalie. It's time to hire it or fire it. GS Construction, hiring now. Become a part of their great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca or their page on indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, the foundation of GS Construction has been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team at GS Construction. All right, so let's do, I got a couple hire it's or fire it's. These are sort of on the variations of things we've been talking about, but just to keep the fun going. Hire it or fire it. Cass, I'll start with you. Connor McDavid will lead the tournament in scoring. Points.
Fire it just because of probabilities. I'm going to go straight probabilities. You very well may, but there's a lot of other really good players. So I'm going to say fire it because the odds are better for me.
I'm going to fire it too. I think we're going to be surprised who leads this tournament in scoring. It's not going to be McDavid though.
I'll probably fire it too, because again, I actually think this might up what might being a lower scoring tournament. And yeah, it could be some. I mean, I was talking about Kyle Connor, who like maybe Travis Konechny gets a 2-goal game at some point, and that vaults him into the Canadian scoring lead, or just somebody like that. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot. I do think points will be at a premium, and maybe it's some. This is going to sound weird, but like a second-tier player in terms of this caliber of tournament, still an NHL star. But a guy on like some team's 6th forward has a good game, and at the end of the tournament, you're like, oh, he actually led the tournament in scoring. Good for him. All right, I'll start with Gager for this one, Cass, because I'll give you a sec to think about it, because Gager and I were talking a little bit about this before we came into the studio. Hire it or fire it for GS Construction. Jordan Binnington starts every game in goal for Canada.
Ooh, that's. God, I wanna hire it, but I'm gonna fire it. I think even if Canada wins the first game, I think they go to Hill the next, just to give both goalies. I'm gonna fire it.
Cass is mulling it over.
I am mulling it over. Before you go, Cass, Mex Bazuzu is mad at you again, Reid, because he said that he must be in Mexico or something, because Troy Stetcher just spat out his mezcal margarita on the beach. So
I feel very bad now. I think Stetcher works his butt off every time he's in the lineup, by the way. But
we're just running him out of town, Raider. Running him out of town. I'm gonna fire it, because I think they just do want to give another guy a look, which I hate to agree with Gager. I was like, how can I look at?
I should have went
look at hiring this. No, that's okay. Because I see them. I see them starting one of the other guys. Like if you get through 2 games, you win both. You might start a different guy in the third. Yeah, just to get a different look and to make sure that someone's playing a little bit. So yeah, I gotta fire it.
Binnington's maybe the biggest wild card for me to watch on the Canadian team, because we've seen him win a Stanley Cup, and you watch Blues games or see highlights, and some nights I'm like, how is this guy in the NHL? Yeah. And then other nights, or how he played against Edmonton last week, you're like, oh, he's going to win the Vezina.
Yeah. Yeah.
And wasn't it you, Gager, that said you think he's got that almost, well, you said chip on his shoulder for Canada. One of you guys did. Like, is he the ultimate chip on his shoulder goalie? Like, I'm eating up this tournament here.
Yeah, I think so. And, you take it with a grain of salt with the way guys talked to him about him on his own team, where they go, we shouldn't have been in that game.
Right.
Like he's a difference maker. So, yeah.
All right. Well, when you guys are back on Thursday, maybe with Dustin Nielson in this chair.
Is he day to day?
I think he's day to day with an upper body. He's like Petrangelo.
He's like day to day with an upper body is what Dustin Nielson is right now.
Yeah.
The old UBI.
But in 47 hours, when you guys sign on at noon on Thursday, you'll have Canada and Sweden to break down.
Be great.
Maybe a Binnington performance, maybe a Victor Arvidsson game-winning goal with 23 seconds left in the third period. Who knows? We'll see. Cass, always great to speak with you, buddy. Have a great day.
See you guys.
Gager, you don't move. Do not move. Right. Stay in that chair. You got your show with Hernan coming up.
I guess,
EST Afternoons with Hernan Salas and Joaquin Gage is next. I will be on at 3 o'clock, the Reid Wilkins Show with Jason Milne. We're going to talk a lot of sports. We also have an interview today with a UFO expert, because we're going to have a little bit of fun with
Riley Martin. Oh, he's dead already.
Fox Mulder, I believe. All right. Stick around for EST Afternoons. Talk to you soon.